I opened the chat archive in a haze. One message after another lit up the screen, each line a betrayal. It began with a soft thinking of you and escalated into longing, then plans I never knew existed. My heart slammed in my chest. This was the secret she held from me. I stared at the timestamp, after midnight, 2 nights ago. My mind snapped back to how she left our bedroom saying she had to finish some work notes. I never imagined notes meant whispers and digital caresses. I closed my eyes and swallowed. The image of her face, the face I've known for decades, felt suddenly alien. I want to take you back a few years, to when we were close again. I'm Elliot. I first met Marina when I was 25, she 23. I was a young project engineer in a regional planning office, and she volunteered at a community arts center. We married before she turned 30. We've been together now for about 32 years. For the first 2 decades, life was blended, or so I thought. We raised our 2 children, shared routines, vacations, late nights talking on the porch. Marina always had energy for ideas, new classes, local events, small consulting gigs. I respected that. Some years ago, I took on more responsibilities in my firm. The travel increased, the nights stretched later. She claimed she loved her independence. I believed her. In the past 5 years, subtle shifts began. She'd say she had extra meetings or community visits. Her phone, once always on the kitchen counter, became a shadow she carried. She'd retreat to a small home office upstairs, doors closed. I could hear her murmuring, but thought maybe she was doing calls for her nonprofit role. At first, I didn't mind. I trusted her. Late dinners alone, conversations fading. I told myself, she's exploring, growing. But then, little things, her coffee cups left downstairs, her jacket missing from the hallway, though she claimed she'd worn it to run errands. I'd catch her eyes flick to her phone when I walked past. She'd hastily minimize screens. I know now, she was building a parallel life behind a screen. Tonight, I loaded the archive. I saw Gavin's name, more than once. I saw dates, fantasies, plans. She wasn't just talking, she was emotionally entwined. My mind went numb. Hands trembling, I scrolled back. The first message, I miss you today, more than I expected. Then, can we meet for coffee? Then, last night I dreamt of you. There was a timestamp overlap, times she told me she was asleep or in meetings. My body felt weightless. My mouth went dry. I replayed every business night, every art fair stop, every unexplained drive. Was she seeing him? I don't know if it was physical yet. But emotionally, in her thoughts, in her messages, she had done disloyalty to us. I froze over the screen. My mind flicked to our marriage, decades of shared sacrifice. Why did I not see this earlier? The phone buzzed softly downstairs. Marina's ringtone. I barely touched a key. My hands left the device. My feet carried me downstairs, each step a slow drum of dread. The screen's glow spilled into the hallway. I knew, before I even saw her face, that nothing would ever be the same. She appeared in the doorway, phone clutched in her hand. Her eyes widened, confusion, then realization. She said, "Elliot, what are you doing here?" My voice caught. I asked, "Why was your phone locked from me? Whose messages are these?" She stammered. Her facade cracked. I swallowed. Here is where it begins, where I stop pretending I don't know. She didn't answer right away. Her fingers fumbled with the phone, as if erasing something mattered anymore. I stood there, arms crossed, not saying another word. The silence between us stretched tight, like a wire ready to snap. Finally, Marina looked up. "It's not what you think," she whispered. That line. I almost laughed. if I hadn't already read the messages, if I hadn't seen her telling him "you make me feel seen again," maybe I'd still believe her. "It's Gavin, right?" I asked. "The guy from that little crafts booth at the harvest fair? The one you said was just interesting?" Her lips parted. Then, slowly, she nodded. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said. "It just started as friendly. Then it turned into something I didn't expect." I nodded slowly. "You didn't expect to keep it a secret? You didn't expect the lies?" Her eyes welled up. "I was lonely, Elliot. You always at work, always tired. Gavin, he listens. He checks in on me. We talk about things you haven't asked me about in years. So that's your justification?" I asked, voice low. "I work hard to keep our house, our retirement safe, our life running. And you give your heart to a stranger because he sells copper bracelets and compliments your earrings?" She didn't answer. She looked small. I sat down across from her. The clock ticked over 11:47 p.m. "How long?" I asked. She hesitated. "About 7 months." That hit like a hammer. "Have you met him in person?" Her silence was louder than any confession. "When?" I asked. "Once, no, twice," she admitted. "The first time, it was just coffee. The second, I went to his studio. We talked. It wasn't." I held up a hand. "Don't bother with details you think will make this sound cleaner. Just be honest. Did you sleep with him?" She shook her head quickly. "No. I swear." It was emotional. Intense, yes. But not physical. I studied her. I'd known her face for 30 years. I could tell when she was being slippery, and tonight, she wasn't. But that didn't make it better. "You hid this from me," I said. "For 7 months. You didn't slip. You chose. You maintained this." She looked down. I didn't know how to stop. I stood up. My legs felt heavy. "I'm going to bed," I said. "Tomorrow we talk about next steps." She opened her mouth, like she wanted to protest. Then closed it. Upstairs, I sat on the edge of our bed, my bed now, I suppose. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling, rewinding every moment of the past year. The missed dinners. Her new makeup just because. The increased community hours. In the morning, she had left early. No note. No call. That gave me time. I did what any man in my position would do. I searched. I looked at our shared computer. I checked the browser history, scrubbed clean. I looked in our cloud account. She'd recently changed the password. That was new. But what she didn't realize was that her phone still backed up to our old home desktop. The sync hadn't been turned off. So I opened it. There it was, weeks of messages between her and Gavin. Pet names. Emotional confessions. Him saying he wished she could stay the night. Her saying she felt alive for the first time in years. Photos too. Innocent at first, her at the farmer's market, smiling. Then one where she was in our living room, wearing a sweater I'd given her, asking, "Should I bring this when I come by?" I stopped scrolling. I'd seen enough. This wasn't just some flirtation. This was her trying to become someone else, for him. And me? I was the one financing her emotional vacation. I copied the messages. Saved them. Labeled the folder October Leaves. Seemed poetic. I printed a few pages and placed them in a sealed envelope. I slid it into my briefcase. If I was going to confront her again, I wasn't going in unarmed. That afternoon, I called a lawyer. Just to ask some questions. The consultation was quiet, calm. The lawyer told me I didn't need proof of a physical affair to demand a separation. Emotional betrayal counted. That evening, I cooked dinner like normal. She came home late. Ran over at work, she said. I said nothing. We ate in silence. She picked at her food. I watched her, every flinch, every nervous twitch. After the plates were cleared, I placed the sealed envelope on the table. What's this? She asked. Insurance, I said. In case you decide to start lying again. She didn't open it. Just stared at it like it was ticking. Then I said, tomorrow, we go to counseling. Not marriage counseling, individual. You need to figure out what you want. And I need space. Starting tonight, I'll be sleeping in the guest room. She nodded slowly. Tears welled in her eyes again. But I didn't feel sympathy this time. I felt clarity. It was the beginning of something sharp and decisive. She crossed a line. And I wasn't going to stand still anymore. The guest room smelled like cardboard and old books. It hadn't been used in years, but that night, it became my refuge. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan spinning above, listening for sounds from the hallway. Marina didn't come to the door. No soft knock. No apology whispered through the wood. Nothing. The next morning, she was already gone when I came downstairs. A note sat on the counter. I understand. I'll look into individual counseling. I'm sorry for hurting you. No signature. No, love, Marina. I stared at the paper until my coffee went cold. The next few days were routine, but everything underneath had changed. We passed each other like ghosts. She kept her distance. I stayed out of her way. I worked from home more often now. Not because I wanted to see her, but because I didn't trust what she'd do if left unobserved. On Thursday, I saw her texting at the kitchen table. When I walked in, she flipped the phone face down. Who's that? I asked casually. Just someone from the center. Scheduling shifts, she replied, not meeting my eye. I nodded slowly. Still talking to him? She stiffened. No. I told him we needed space. I'm trying to do the right thing now. I didn't press further. Not yet. But later that night, after she fell asleep on the couch, I checked her phone. She had deleted the app. But a backup folder remained. Not full conversations, but enough metadata to prove contact continued. Timestamps. File sizes. Message counts. She was still talking to Gavin. Just through a different channel. That's when something snapped in me. This wasn't confusion on her part. It wasn't a lost woman trying to find herself. This was deliberate. She wanted both lives, the stability of our shared history and the thrill of her secret escape. But I wasn't going to let her straddle that line anymore. The next morning, I left early and drove across town. I knew where Gavin worked. Not because Marina told me, but because I remembered the arts fair she dragged me to last fall. He ran a small jewelry stall back then, sold brass pendants and etched glass. She lingered too long at his booth. I thought nothing of it at the time. But now, I knew better. His store was tucked between a yoga studio and a wine cafe. Copper tree designs. I didn't go in. Not yet. I watched from across the street, sipping bad coffee from a paper cup. He came in around 9:30. Younger than me. Scruffy beard. Denim jacket. The kind of guy who thinks brooding counts as depth. He didn't look dangerous. But then again, poison rarely comes with warning labels. I snapped a few photos from the car, him unlocking the shop, talking on his phone, laughing with a woman who passed by. Proof. Just in case. I didn't confront him then. I wasn't ready. Not yet. But I wanted to see the man who thought he could step into my life and rewrite the script. That night, I set a trap. I reinstalled the messaging app Marina had been using. Logged into a dummy account. Then I sent her a message, pretending to be Gavin. Just one line, still thinking about you. Miss the way your voice sounds when you laugh. It took exactly 3 minutes for her to reply. I told you we have to be careful. He's suspicious. I can't lose everything right now. I stared at the screen. My fingers trembled, not from sadness. From clarity. She was still in it. Deep. This wasn't a mistake. It was a choice, every single day. The next morning, I set the envelope back on the kitchen table. Same spot. But this time, I added a second one. Inside, printouts of the metadata logs. Screenshots from the fake conversation. Photos of Gavin opening his shop. She came downstairs in her robe, rubbing sleep from her eyes. She froze when she saw them. "What's this?" she asked, voice flat. "I gave you a chance to be honest," I said. "You chose secrets." She didn't move. "I know you're still talking to him. I know you're lying to me every day. So now, I'm telling you how this goes." I stood, calm and measured. "You move out. This week. I already called an attorney. If you want to avoid me filing for cause, you'll cooperate. No more lies. No more games." She sat down, hard. "Elliot, please." I didn't know how to end it. I thought I could fade it out without hurting you more. "That's the problem," I said. "You thought of him. Not me. Not us." She buried her face in her hands. But I felt nothing. Not pity. Not rage. Just distance. "You have until Sunday," I said. Then I changed the locks. She looked up, eyes red. "And what about the kids?" she whispered. I shrugged. "You can tell them whatever version you want. I'll stick to the truth." Her mouth trembled. She didn't argue. I turned and walked out. Behind me, the silence said everything. By Friday afternoon, she hadn't packed a single box. I came home early, walked into the living room, and saw her sitting on the couch, scrolling on her phone like it was any other day. The audacity of it, how comfortable she looked, sparked something deep and final in me. "I told you to start packing," I said. Calm, but cold. She looked up, startled. "I was going to. Elliot, this doesn't have to be permanent." I didn't sit down. "You had 7 months to make this right. I gave you one clear boundary. You crossed it again. It's permanent now." She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. "You think you're the only one who's been lonely? I worked late to protect our future. Not to ignore you. And instead of coming to me like a partner, you went behind my back and gave yourself to someone who doesn't know a damn thing about real life." That shut her up. "I've found a rental," I continued. "I'll be there Monday. Until then, I'm staying here. But you need to leave this house by Sunday evening. Period." "I have nowhere to go," she said, her voice trembling. "You have options," I replied. "You've been resourceful enough sneaking around. Figure it out." She started to cry again, but it didn't hit me like it used to. That night, I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I reached out to an old friend, Tom, a guy I used to work with before he moved upstate. He had gone through a divorce 5 years ago. I remembered how gutted he looked back then, and how much stronger he seemed now. We talked for over an hour. I didn't tell him every detail, but he understood enough. He said, "Don't give her a second chance to fool you. You don't owe her your pain just because you shared history." That line stuck with me. Saturday morning, I started organizing the basement, my stuff, not hers. Marina watched from the hallway. "You really doing this?" she said. I didn't stop moving. "You made the first choice. I'm making the last." She came closer. "He meant nothing long-term, Elliot. It was just attention. It made me feel young again." "You could have told me that," I replied. "You could have asked for more, or for less. But you chose to live a lie inside this house. That's not attention. That's betrayal." She said nothing. That afternoon, her sister arrived in a gray SUV. I watched from the kitchen window as they loaded up 2 suitcases and a box of Marina's clothes. They didn't even come back inside to say goodbye. By 4 p.m., she was gone. I stood in the living room, hours for so many years, and realized how quiet it was. I didn't feel relief yet. Just space. That night, I opened the October Leaves folder again. Not to torture myself, but to remind me what this really was. There were photos of them at some gallery opening. Her arm looped in his. Him grinning like he'd won something. She looked like a different woman in those pictures. It wasn't just the affair. It was the lie of who she became with him. And I realized something: I didn't just lose a wife. I lost a version of her that had already disappeared long before I found those messages. Sunday came and went. No word from her. Monday morning, I packed up and left. The rental was a furnished condo across town, small, but clean. The quiet hit different there. Not heavy, just level. I went back to work like nothing had happened. Took meetings. Filed reports. Ate lunch alone in the break room. It wasn't until Thursday that she texted. "Can we talk? Just once? I need closure." I stared at the screen. I typed, erased, typed again. Then I sent, "You can write me a letter. I'll decide if I want to read it." She didn't reply. That was the moment I felt it, a control. For the first time in months, I set the terms. That weekend, I stopped by the house to grab the last of my things, some tools, winter clothes, a few framed photos I'd left on the mantel. It was quiet. Almost too quiet. Her scent was gone. Her touch vanished from every surface. But I wasn't there to feel. I was there to finish. I loaded the last 2 boxes into the car, locked up, and turned to leave. That's when I saw it, her car, parked a few houses down. She stepped out. No makeup. Windblown hair. She looked like she hadn't slept. "I didn't expect to see you here," she said. "I could say the same," I replied. She looked at the boxes in my backseat. "So that's it? It was at the moment you lied to my face. Everything since has just been logistics." She swallowed hard. "I wrote the letter," she said, reaching into her coat. She handed me a white envelope. "You don't have to read it now." I took it. Slid it into the side pocket of my jacket. Then I turned back to my car. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen," she said behind me. I paused. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I wanted to say only what mattered. Everything that just happens starts with a choice. And you made dozens of them. Repeatedly. So don't rewrite this as an accident. She looked down. "You said Gavin meant nothing long term," I continued. but you still chose him over telling the truth. And now you've got neither. She didn't try to stop me. I drove off without looking back. That night, in the condo, I sat by the window and opened the envelope. Her handwriting hadn't changed. Neat, a little dramatic, like she was always trying to impress someone. Elliot. I don't know how to say what needs saying. I just keep circling it in my head. But here it is, plain, I was unhappy. I didn't know how to ask for something more from us without feeling like I was betraying what we'd already built. So I betrayed it anyway. Gavin gave me attention. Flattery. He made me feel young, wanted. It's pathetic, I know. But when you spend years being invisible, even a cheap mirror looks beautiful. I didn't plan to fall for him. But I also didn't stop it when I should have. And that's on me. All of it. I never stopped loving you. That's the most confusing part. But I know now that loving someone isn't enough if you're not honest with them. If you hate me, I understand. I hate me too, some days. But if any part of you can remember the life we built, please know that I didn't forget it. I just lost sight of how to live inside it. Marina. I read it twice. Then I folded it and placed it in the drawer. Not to treasure it. To keep it as evidence, for myself, of who she really became. On Monday, I met with the attorney again. Still want to move forward? She asked. I nodded. Uncontested divorce, I said. No alimony. We split the assets clean. I want my name off the house and her name off everything else. She raised her eyebrows. That's definitive. Clarity matters more than comfort, I said. That night, I blocked Marina's number. I had her words. I didn't need her voice anymore. But there was still one more thing left to do. I printed every message. Every screenshot. Every timeline. And I sent it all, sealed in a thick envelope, to Gavin's shop. No note. No explanation. Just the truth, dropped like a stone into his carefully curated world. Let him read it and see the full scope of what he'd participated in. Let him squirm. Let him wonder if his little fantasy was worth it. I didn't need to confront him in person. I wanted him to feel the cold slap of reality the same way I had. The divorce papers came back signed exactly 1 month later. No objections. No drawn-out fight. Marina didn't contest anything, not the asset split, not the financial terms, not even the date. It was as if she knew she'd already lost everything that mattered. I remember the day I picked up the finalized decree. Cold morning. Slight frost on the windows. The courthouse clerk didn't even look up when she handed it over. Congratulations, she said, in the same tone someone might use to pass you a receipt. I walked out with a manila envelope in my hands and 3 decades behind me. I didn't feel triumphant. But I did feel done. Weeks passed. The world didn't stop spinning. I went to work. I came home. I got used to the silence in my condo, started drinking tea at night instead of coffee, began falling asleep without the television on. My daughter called more often. She suspected something had happened, grown kids always do, but I kept it simple. Your mom and I went different ways, I said. Did she hurt you? She asked once. I paused. She stopped choosing me, I said. That's all that really matters. She didn't ask again. One afternoon, I got a small envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single Polaroid. It showed Gavin's shop, vacant. The closed sign was duct taped to the window. Inside, the shelves were bare. No note. I stood at my kitchen counter staring at it. I didn't know who sent it. Maybe Marina. Maybe someone else who wanted me to know Gavin's fantasy imploded too. I didn't smile. But I felt closure. That kind of man rarely lasts. Especially not when the thrill is gone and the consequences start knocking. In April, Marina emailed once. Just a line. I hope you're okay. I still think of you every day. I didn't reply. There wasn't anything left to say. You want to know what I learned? That the greatest betrayal isn't a body. It's a choice made every day, to turn away from someone who's stood by you, quietly, faithfully, for years. Marina didn't fall in love with Gavin. She fell in love with the version of herself that didn't have to face responsibility, or aging, or boredom. And when that version collapsed, she had nothing left to stand on. But I did. I had my name. My clarity. My peace. Sometimes peace looks like a quiet condo and a half-empty fridge. And sometimes, that's more than enough.